In this direct answers video, we're going to be discussing whether or not you should set up an anonymous LLC in Wyoming. There definitely are perks for setting up Wyoming LLCs. Stick around to the end of this video and I'll get around to all of them. This video topic comes to us from 473 Crown 4 because he commented on one of my YouTube videos. He asks, can you do a video on how to structure a parent company in Wyoming? Make sure to include the entity type, whether it's an LLC or a corporation. Now, setting up a Wyoming LLC is advantageous in a lot of situations, especially if you're a real estate investor. So to give you some context, I'll just walk you through an example. Let's say that you live in Utah and you buy a rental property in Utah. But to buy that rental property, you set up a Utah LLC to hold title to that rental property. Now this may sound all well and good when your property's in an LLC, but unfortunately, Utah is a very weak state for LLC asset protection. And this is because the Utah LLC does not offer any charging order protection for its LLCs. This means that if you have the Utah LLC and you own it individually, and let's say that you get into a car accident, God forbid, and that car wreck victim were to sue you personally, because the Utah LLC does not have the charging order protection, it's much easier for that car wreck victim to come in and reach the equity that's inside the Utah LLC. So in order to prevent this from happening, we set up a Wyoming LLC that owns your interest in the Utah LLC. So instead of you as an individual owning the Utah LLC, you as an individual would own the Wyoming LLC, which in turn would own the Utah LLC. If you were to own the Wyoming LLC and that car wreck victim were to sue you, the car wreck victim could only reach the Wyoming LLC. And because the Wyoming LLC has the charging order protection, that car wreck victim would have to wait until any distributions are made in order to collect anything from it. Now this is a lot better than having you own the Utah LLC, which the car wreck victim could much more easily reach. And having that Wyoming LLC is very advantageous, because if you're sued personally, it's much more difficult for those creditors to reach your real estate assets. With the Wyoming LLC, they'd have to wait until any distributions are made, and that's a much better asset protection strategy. Now I'm going to discuss the 3 reasons why it's advantageous to set up a Wyoming LLC. The first one is the charging order protection, which I already talked about. If somebody sues you personally, it's much more difficult for that person to reach after your valuable assets. The second reason, as the title suggests, is the anonymity. When you set up a Wyoming LLC, your name is not listed on the Wyoming Secretary of State's website. And as such, it provides you anonymity and more privacy. And the third reason is that Wyoming LLCs are very affordable. As of this recording, they only cost $100 to set up, and the annual filing fees to maintain them are $62 a year. This is a much more affordable option as opposed to, say, states like California, where you need to pay $800 a year. Now, to address Crown's last point, in many situations, we recommend the LLC over the corporation, and there are a few reasons for this. The first is that corporations do not provide the charging order protection that LLCs do. This means that if you're sued personally, it's much more easier for that creditor to reach after a corporation's shares, as opposed to your interest in the Wyoming LLC. Now, I should mention that Nevada is the only state that has charging order protection for corporations. But in this situation, having a Wyoming LLC is better, in my opinion. And the second reason why we like LLCs over corporations is because of the tax flexibility that LLCs offer. Corporations can only be taxed as C Corps or S Corps. In many situations, being taxed as a C Corp is not advantageous because you have to face the double tax regime. This is where you pay a 21% corporate tax, and then if anything's distributed out to the shareholders, the shareholders pay a second level of tax at the individual level. And if the entity is taxed as an S Corp, there are additional restrictions associated with that. For instance, there can be a maximum of 100 shareholders, and all shareholders must be U.S. residents. But with an LLC, you can be taxed as a C Corp, an S Corp, a partnership, or a disregarded entity. And for real estate, these entities are usually taxed as partnerships or disregarded entities. And in these situations, all the profits and losses from the real estate holdings would flow onto the owner's individual tax returns. So holding title to real estate in an LLC is a much more advantageous option if you own real estate. Hold on, I'm not done yet. If you're looking to start a business, click the link in the description below and schedule a free 15-minute consultation with us. Also, make sure to check out the Corporate Direct website and subscribe to our newsletter, where we'll send you a lot of good information on corporate law, amongst other things. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any general questions about anything. I'll see you next time.